At ACC 14, we're probably going to find out more about the Simplicity trial results, Simplicity 3. So what does this mean? There's top-line results that's been reported in a press release saying that essentially the results, it failed to reach its primary endpoint. So I'm talking about the whole topic with Horst Sievert, MD, PhD, who is the director of the Cardiovascular Center in Frankfurt. I know you and I have talked about the topic before. Assuming that the results are indeed what they have come out in their own press releases and saying that it has failed, does that mean that renal denervation has failed?
Not necessarily. I mean, we have so many evidence that this works. We know this from animal experiments. We know this from surgical experience. We have other trials showing that it is beneficial. So there may be many reasons why this trial probably had failed, and this could be in the study design, in the study conductance. So I think it's just too early. We have to look at the results in detail, and then we can say whether it's really a negative procedure or negative trial.
Now, you were part of the REDUCE-HTN trial, and that was presented at TCT, if I remember right. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that was with a different device, correct?
That's with a different device. It's a bipolar radiofrequency system, which is balloon-based, and this has actually some advantages, at least in theory, compared to the Simplicity catheter, and that is bipolar energy allows very localized application of energy, so there's less treatment variation than with the Simplicity catheter, and the results so far are looking really good with this device.
Now, in terms of what's happening right now in Germany in specific and Europe in general, where does this whole process of renal denervation stand?
Well, the impression I have in my practice is that referring physicians and patients are still looking for it and asking for it. There may be some issues with reimbursement, not yet, but this may show up as soon as the insurance companies look at the study results. But overall, the enthusiasm has not changed.
Which would seem to me to be kind of a very interesting phenomenon, but is it that people have confidence in what's going on physiologically with this procedure?
Yeah, I think they have confidence based on the data which is out there from other trials and animal experience and surgical experience. That's one thing. And they also had the impression that it works in their patients. And it may be important how the physician doing this has talked to his referring physicians and to the patient. So we never promised overwhelming results. We always told the patient there is a non-responder rate of about 20–30%. We always told them you should not expect more than 10 millimeters of mercury decrease, and it's a long-lasting effect which takes time to occur. So when you talk to the patients up front and to the referring physicians, then I think the expectations are just lower, and then the disappointment is not as big as now in the trial.
And in your patients, after they've had surgery, how many remain on some kind of antihypertensive therapy?
That's another important issue. All of them are still under antihypertensive treatment, and that is part of the education. So we have to tell them it's not a cure of hypertension, it just facilitates medical management of hypertension. So we are recommending not to change any medication.
Now, because of the physiological changes, what happens with the drugs that you're using? Are there some antihypertensive medications that might be better than others?
We don't know that. I mean, these are analyses which may come out of HTN3 when this has been analyzed in full, but currently we don't have that data. So also we don't know which patients are responding better than others. So all these things, that will be the major information we can get from HTN3.
So finally, in regards to Simplicity 3, and if the results are definitely negative, what advice do you have, words of wisdom for doctors in the United States?
Well, there will be not definitive negative. I mean, it's obvious that the primary endpoint was failed, but it could, for example, be that that the blood pressure reduction was 9 millimeters of mercury. That means primary endpoint probably failed. We don't know the details of the statistics, but a 9 millimeters decrease of blood pressure in patients who are resistant to medical therapy is a major advantage for them.
And there's a couple of papers coming out, I think, on this particular approach in patients with diabetes. And in that particular population, it did work quite well.
Well, it worked in most populations, or whenever we used it. So this is actually the first negative trial we have at all. And the fact that it is sham controlled doesn't mean anything, because there may be other reasons why this trial failed.
Thank you very much, because this is a topic of great interest and one that I think we're going to be talking about for at least a few years yet. Renal denervation is the topic for CardioSource World News. I'm Executive Editor Rick McGuire.